What if I told you that our very existence is under threat? Yes, the culprit is climate change. Climate change is a phrase we've all heard, but what does it really mean? Well, it's about the long-term shifts and alterations in temperature and typical weather patterns on our planet. While it's true that the Earth's climate has always been in flux, what's different now is the pace of this change and the significant role human activities play in accelerating it. You see, our planet has a natural climate variability. Think of it as Mother Nature's rhythm, with periods of warming and cooling over millennia. Like a finely tuned orchestra, this rhythm has been disturbed, not by a wayward violin or an offbeat drum, but by us, humans. Our modern lifestyles, driven by industrialization and consumerism, have increased the levels of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. These gases trap heat from the sun, causing the planet to warm up, a phenomenon known as global warming. This in turn fuels climate change, disrupting natural patterns and causing extreme weather events. Imagine wearing a thick winter coat on a hot summer's day. That's essentially what we're doing to our planet. We're wrapping it in an increasingly thick layer of greenhouse gases, turning up the thermostat, and expecting it to be business as usual. This isn't just about polar bears losing their icy homes or the sea levels rising. It's about the massive hurricanes, devastating droughts, and deadly heat waves that are becoming more common and intense. It's about the impact on our food and water supply, on our health, on our economy, on our very way of life. We've been treating the symptoms, but it's high time we address the root cause. It's high time we acknowledge our role in this unfolding drama and take responsibility for our actions. Indeed, climate change is an inconvenient truth we can no longer turn a blind eye to. The question is, what can we do about it? Well, stay tuned as we explore this further. How exactly does climate change occur? Let's unravel the science behind it. The heart of climate change lies in a phenomenon called the greenhouse effect, a natural process that warms the Earth's surface. When the sun's energy reaches the Earth's atmosphere, some of it is reflected back to space, and the rest is absorbed and re-radiated as heat. Certain gases in the atmosphere trap this heat, preventing it from escaping into space. This is what keeps our planet habitable. However, the problem arises when the concentration of these greenhouse gases increases. Carbon dioxide, or CO2, is one of the main greenhouse gases, and its levels have been rising alarmingly due to human activities. Let's explain how. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas for energy, we release CO2 into the atmosphere. Similarly, the process of deforestation, the cutting down of vast swaths of forests, also contributes to CO2 levels. Trees absorb CO2, so fewer trees mean more CO2 remains in the atmosphere. Moreover, the industrial processes that manufacture our goods, the cars we drive, the planes we fly in, all contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases. Even agriculture plays a part, with livestock producing methane, another potent greenhouse gas. The increase in greenhouse gases leads to more heat being trapped, which raises the Earth's average temperature, a process known as global warming. This warming is what's causing climate patterns to change, resulting in extreme weather events and rising sea levels. However, it's not just CO2 that's the problem. Other greenhouse gases like methane and nitrous oxide are also contributing to the warming. Methane is released during the production and transport of coal, oil, and natural gas. Nitrous oxide is emitted during agricultural and industrial activities, as well as during combustion of fossil fuels and biomass. As we see, our actions have triggered a chain of events that are now spiraling out of control. We've set the stage for climate change. Now, what does it mean for us and our world? Just imagine Earth as a colossal theater. In this grand spectacle, climate change is not some elusive phantom lurking in the shadows. It is a palpable force, reshaping the contours of our reality in real time. One of the most visible consequences of climate change is the rising sea levels. As greenhouse gases trap more heat in our atmosphere, the polar ice caps melt at an alarming rate, causing the seas to rise. This isn't just about losing a few beaches or coastal cities. Entire island nations are at risk of being submerged, displacing millions of people and erasing centuries of cultural heritage. But the drama doesn't stop at the water's edge. Climate change is also whipping up a tempest of more frequent and severe weather events. Heat waves scorch our cities, droughts parch our farmlands, and hurricanes devastate our coastlines with a ferocity we've never seen before. These are not just isolated incidents, but a series of interconnected events, a chain reaction set off by our own actions. And then there's the disruption of ecosystems. With rising temperatures, the intricate web of life is being unraveled. Species that have been around for millions of years are being pushed to the brink of extinction. Coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, are bleaching and dying. Forests are burning, oceans are acidifying, and our planet's biodiversity, the very essence of life on Earth, is under siege. As we delve into the harsh realities of climate change, it's important to remember that these are not mere projections or worst-case scenarios. These are the consequences we are already witnessing, the changes that are already happening. Climate change is not a specter waiting in the wings, it is center stage, here and now. This is not a distant problem of the future, it is happening now, and it is happening fast. Time is ticking, and with every second that passes, the climate crisis worsens. Picture an hourglass, each grain of sand representing a moment that we can never reclaim. As the sand slips away, so does our opportunity to reverse the damage we've inflicted on our planet. The urgency of the situation cannot be overstated. We are not simply dealing with a future problem, we are confronting a crisis that is unfolding as we speak. Changes in climate patterns, melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and more frequent and severe weather events are not just predictions for the distant future. They are happening right now. In the grand scheme of the Earth's history, the window of opportunity to act is fleeting. We are racing against the clock to prevent the crossing of critical tipping points in our climate system. Once crossed, these points may lead to irreversible changes. Think of the tipping points as a row of dominoes. Once the first one falls, it triggers a chain reaction and there's no stopping it. For example, the melting of permafrost in the Arctic could release massive amounts of methane, a potent greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere. This in turn could accelerate global warming, leading to more permafrost melt in a vicious cycle. Such positive feedback loops in our climate system are alarming. They can drastically amplify the effects of climate change, potentially pushing our planet into a new inhospitable state. The stakes could not be higher. If we fail to act swiftly and decisively, we risk not only the health of our planet, but also the survival of future generations. The effects of climate change will not discriminate. They will touch every corner of the globe, impacting all forms of life. We are standing on the edge of a precipice. The next step could either save us or doom us. We need to decide if we want to be the generation that let the sand slip through our fingers or the one that turned the hourglass on its head. So, what can we do to combat this existential threat? Well, it's a two-pronged approach, really: adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation, as the name suggests, involves adjusting to new climatic conditions and managing the risks associated with climate change. This could mean building flood defenses, developing drought-tolerant crops, or designing buildings to withstand higher temperatures. On the other hand, mitigation involves reducing the flow of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere with the goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, as set out in the Paris Agreement. This is where renewable energy, reforestation, and carbon capture and storage come into play. Renewable energy, from sources like the sun, wind, and water, is key to reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. It's clean, it's sustainable, and it's increasingly cost-competitive with traditional forms of energy. Transitioning to a renewable energy future isn't just beneficial for the climate, it's also a boon for the economy, creating jobs and driving technological innovation. Reforestation, or planting trees to replace those lost to deforestation, is another crucial mitigation strategy. Trees are incredible carbon sinks, absorbing CO2 as they grow and storing it in their trunks, leaves, and roots. By restoring our forests, we can harness the power of nature to combat climate change. Lastly, there's carbon capture and storage, a technology that can capture up to 90% of the CO2 emissions from power plants and industrial facilities. Once captured, the CO2 is then transported and stored underground, preventing it from reaching the atmosphere. Each of these strategies has its part to play in the fight against climate change, but it's not just about implementing one or two of them in isolation. It's about integrating them into a comprehensive, coordinated response, one that involves governments, businesses, and individuals alike. The solutions exist, we just need the will to implement them. But who exactly is responsible for implementing these solutions? Well, the answer is as broad as it is clear: everyone. Individuals, governments, and corporations alike have significant roles to play in adapting and mitigating the effects of climate change. Starting with individuals, each of us holds a certain degree of power in combating climate change. Whether it's by reducing our carbon footprint through practices like recycling, using public transportation, or eating less meat, or by raising awareness and advocating for climate-friendly policies, every action counts. However, individual actions alone cannot suffice. This is a global problem that requires global solutions. That's where governments come in. They have the power to implement policies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote sustainable practices. They can invest in renewable energy, enforce stricter pollution standards, and push for international cooperation on climate change. Governments also have the responsibility to protect their citizens from the impacts of climate change through disaster risk reduction strategies and climate-resilient infrastructure. And what about corporations? Well, they have a massive role to play too. Many of the world's largest corporations have carbon footprints greater than some small countries. As such, they have a responsibility to reduce their emissions and invest in sustainable practices. They can also use their influence to advocate for climate-friendly policies and invest in innovative solutions. But here's the thing. None of these entities can do it alone. Climate change is a complex problem that requires collective action. We need individuals to change their behaviors, governments to implement and enforce policies, and corporations to innovate and lead by example. So what does this mean for you? It means that you have a role to play. You can make a difference. Whether you're a student, a parent, a business owner, or a policymaker, you have the power to influence change. We all have a part to play in this. Together, we can turn the tide. The choices we make today will determine the future of our planet. Our decisions, big and small, will shape the world for generations to come. Let's envision a few possible scenarios, shall we? If we continue on our current path, ignoring the science and dismissing the urgency, the future looks grim. Rising sea levels could swallow up coastal cities. Extreme weather events would become the norm, causing widespread devastation. Droughts and heat waves could render vast areas of land uninhabitable, leading to food shortages and mass migration. This is the future if we choose inaction. But let's consider another path, one where we heed the warnings and act decisively. The future here is not only survivable but sustainable and equitable. Renewable energy sources become the norm, drastically reducing our carbon footprint. Our cities transform into green spaces with efficient public transportation and buildings that generate their own power. Agriculture becomes sustainable, no longer draining our resources but replenishing them. What about our forests? They flourish, providing habitats for countless species and acting as vital carbon sinks. The air is cleaner, the weather more predictable, the planet healthier. This is the future if we choose action. The choice is ours and the time to act is now. We can continue to ignore the problem, or we can face it head-on. We can choose short-term convenience over long-term survival, or we can prioritize the health and well-being of our planet and future generations. The road to this better future is not easy. It requires commitment, innovation, and collaboration on a global scale. But the rewards are immense, a sustainable, equitable world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the power to make this future a reality. We just need the will. Our planet has a fever, and we are the cure. The future is in our hands. The time for talking is over. Now we must act. Let's bring the conversation from the global stage to our own homes, our own communities. It's about the choices we make every day, the products we buy, the food we eat, the way we travel. Let's make climate-friendly choices the norm, not the exception. But it's not just about individual action, it's about collective action. It's about using our voices, our votes, to elect leaders who prioritize the health of our planet over short-term gains. Leaders who understand the urgency of the situation and are willing to make tough decisions for the benefit of all. And it doesn't stop there. We must also hold corporations accountable. Demand transparency in their environmental policies, encourage sustainable practices, because every company, big or small, has a role to play in this fight against climate change. Remember, every action counts. Together we can make a difference. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. This will to encourage us to bring you more videos like this.